Hi everybody, it's Marcy, and today I wanted to bring you along for a little play. I got a flower catalog in the mail, and um, mostly it's for stuff that you'll plant in the fall and bloom in the spring, I believe. But anyway, so I started playing, and one thing that I've always been a little bit intrigued by is tea cards, which I know were very popular in the UK and Europe. Uh, I've never actually seen one in person, and so I watched a video Tracie Fox did. Oh, it's probably been a year or so ago, about faux tea cards. And I took what she did. All the measurements she gave were in centimeters, and I don't do centimeters real well, so I've altered mine a little bit. I think her measurements were 6.8 centimeters by 3.7 centimeters. Anyway, so I transferred that into inches, which came out to really odd numbers, and then broke it down a little bit. So what I came up with was 2 3/4 inches wide by 1.5 inches tall. That makes them about 3/32 of an inch larger than a standard tea card. 3/32 of an inch, I'm not overly worried about. And okay, so I'm just going to get started. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use an index card, and I want to, whatever my image is, I'm going to want to leave a 1/8 inch frame all the way around. Let me actually pull out one that I did. So this is one that I did earlier in preparation for the video, and about a 1/8 inch around the entire thing. So what I want to make first is a little frame that I can put it on a book page or magazine page or catalog page and see what the image will look like within the space. And my card will be 2 3/4 inches by 1.5 inches. My inside picture will be 2.5 inches by 1 1/4 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my ruler, come over 1 inch, and well, I'm just leaving myself a gap there. So I'm going to mark it at 1 inch in and then 2.5 inches from that. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. And basically I'm just doing this to get a straight line because I want to cut out my frame so I can look at the images. And I'll show you what I'm talking about here in just a second. Okay, then going this way, I'm going to come down 1 inch and mark 1.5 inches from, no, 1.25 inches from there. Okay, do the same thing here. So I'm going to come down 1 inch and then mark 1.25 inches from there. Actually, I don't need to mark that. I just need to pull out my metal ruler. I never use my X-Acto knife with my plastic ruler. Okay, so then the way this will be used is, say, ooh, that's pretty. And that's what it's going to look like. That's how you're going to have to cut it down to go onto a T card. So you lose everything else. Or onto one of these faux T cards. Or like this one, okay. It's great. You can only get one flower. So it just depends on what you like. For me, like, I would like that. That one speaks to me. I could even bring it down a little bit. And yeah, see, I like that. So that might be one that I want to cut for a T card. Or roughly a T card. I'm going to call them T cards. Okay. Then I'm going to take a piece of cardstock. And I want to cut my cardstock to 2 3/4 by 1.5. And the best way I found to do this was having my paper lengthwise and cut it at 2 3/4. And I will get 3 strips out of that with just a tiny bit left over. I tried to figure out the best way to cut it. So all I have left that way is that little bitty strip of paper. It's about 1/4 inch. Okay, then I'm going to stack mine. You may have to cut yours individually, depending on your cutter. And I'm going to cut now the 1.5 inch side. And doing it this way, I get 21 cards out of one sheet of cardstock. So then when you do that, you've got this, well, it would have been this plus this. So you've got that little strip left over. But now you've got 21, one sheet of cardstock, and you've got 21 little T-card shaped cards. Okay. Now, so I used the flower catalog that I got, and then I went to a magazine because maybe not everybody likes flowers. And there was this picture of this salamander. Now, this isn't something I would normally use, and all I could get was his little head. But I would be more apt to use that because I actually think that's really cute than I would have been apt to use the entire picture of a salamander. So that's kind of what's cool about these. Because to me, he kind of looks like he's smiling. I know he's not, but that's what it makes me think. Okay, so let's go. And I like when I can on some of these flower ones to actually leave the name of the flower. Let's go ahead and do this one. Yeah. I love this image, but it doesn't fit real well in the T card. I want to have, if not the full image, I want to have more than just this. So I'm hanging on to that one. So I'm going to cut this out. And okay. I think I want to, oh, that wouldn't be too bad either. Okay, first, I might be able to get a couple of T cards out of this one. Okay. So I'm going to pull out my, and you'll see, this is the one, the cutout I made first, so I'd already marked what it was. And I wrote on here, outside frame 2 3/4 by 1 1/2, the inside picture 2 1/2 by 1 1/4. That way, as I'm cutting my pictures down, I can look at that to be sure I get my measurements right. Okay. So we're going to cut that like that. Then 1 1/4. And bear in mind, for this one, I want to keep the name of the flower. Okay, so that's how I'm cutting it. And 2 1/2. Okay. So we'll take that, and we'll take one of the bases. Now, the next thing I'm doing is I'm using my walnut stain. I'm not distressing the image itself. I'm just going around the edges to create a little definition around the edges, but I'm not going on the picture. I'm just basically swiping along that edge, just to get rid, excuse me, of any white space and create a little definition around the image itself. Okay. Now, very simply, I'm ready to glue my picture down. I mean, this is so, after you make your little framing template and cut 21 cards out of a piece of cardstock, it's just so easy. Now, you want to try to get it lined up evenly. Doesn't have to be perfect. It's handmade. Nothing is going to be perfect. And one thing I like to do, you could leave it just like that. So there's one with nothing else added. Pull this one out. Here, I rounded the corners and then I brushed a little bit of distressing on it. Either one is perfectly fine. I prefer mine this way, but that's me. You could say, okay, I'm done. I've got a T card. And that would be perfectly fine. Perfectly, it's all what suits you the best. I am going to round my corners, and one of the reasons I like, and I'm just using the very smallest corner rounder that I have. One of the reasons I do like rounding my corners is so the corner A doesn't catch on stuff when it's being put into or pulled out of pockets. Okay, using this makeup brush, and I think I've explained this before, but I can't remember for certain. I've got these that I love using for stenciling. This brush is longer bristled, not as dense. I don't want to get rid of that's white, that's aged white to me. And that's all I want. I'm afraid with this brush or with my dauber, I'm going to get too much ink. And I've found that this brush works really well to just come in and lightly go over it. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing on the back because I don't want to have an aged front and a pristine back. So I got a little aging on there. You can probably barely see it. And then I'll use my sponge dauber just right around the very edge of this. Okay, so there is my little T card. So let's see. So I did that where I kept the name. Now I want to go back and I want to pull this. I think I want to use the same image, but a different frame of reference for another one. So, and I'll use this edge. So we'll go to 2.5. and 1 1/4. And let's see what this looks like. See, that's also very pretty. So 2 really kind of different looks from the same image just by taking such a small little strip of it. So I'm having so much fun doing this, and after I finish this one, I'm going to show you one more, because I mean, you can use anything. You can use, like I'm using this catalog that I got. But you could use book pages. You could use magazine pages. I mean, just anything you can that has images. Just use your little template to see what it will look like. Oops. Just to see what image you're actually going to get. And like I said, the salamander that I did, when I looked at the entire picture, I thought, well, I'd never use that. But as soon as I put the framing over it, I thought, well, he looks like he's smiling. And like I said, I'm not going to do a bunch of salamander tea cards and stuff, but it is kind of fun. Is that 1 or 2? That's 1. Just to see what it looks like. And I have a similar template like this that I use for making faux postage stamps and stuff. Right now, I'm not allowing myself to make any faux postage stamps because I've got some real postage stamps that I'd bought, and so I'm not allowed to make any faux ones until I use up my real ones, and I'm trying so hard to use them up. But I actually really like the faux postage stamps, so if I make them, I won't use the ones that I actually bought. Okay, so again, there it is from down at the bottom of the photo where it had the name and it's closer to the ground, and a completely different looking image by using the upper part of the image. Okay, so let's look at, see, there's a big image of the salamander. And I saw somebody, I believe it was Amy Johns, she did a whole bunch of these kind of tea cards using larger images and just eyes. So she has a whole section named eyes. Anyway. Okay. Those are going to be too small. But this little guy, let's use that bird. So here I'm using a magazine page. And let's see, I need to look at, okay, because it's got that number 1 there, and I don't want that. Yeah, I can do that. I'll lose, well, basically all I'm losing is the back talon wrapped around the tree. So yeah, that'll work. Okay. So I'm going to cut this one right at the very top of that number 1. And I want to go right to the edge of the photo so I can keep his tail. And then we need 1 1/4. And 2 1/2. So voila. Now we've got a bird. And I mean, and you saw him in the magazine, but on this little bitty card, the image actually seems larger. The bird is more present than he was on a page with a bunch of other stuff, which is another thing that little template helps to draw out. So don't, if you do something like this, and you can do this with anything, I'll show you a couple of others that I did when I'm done here. But you can do that with anything. So don't overlook an image. Just slide your little template around a page and see if anything that appears within the frame captures your interest. And these are just great little ephemera pieces to be able to tuck into a pocket or a tuck, or, you know, those spaces where you need a little something. These are perfect for that. And they don't cost you, I mean, like that catalog didn't cost me anything. The magazine didn't cost me anything. It's from the Conservation, Department of Conservation. So, $21 cards basically is costing me 1 sheet of cardstock paper and a little glue and ink, and that's it. Now, T cards, as a rule, have information printed on the back about the image that's on the front, as I understand it. Like I said, I'm only going by what I've seen, not that I've ever physically handled a T card myself. But mine, for the time being, I'm going to leave blank. But when I go to put them in a journal, I might choose to stamp a little sentiment or something on the back. but I can decide that at the time that I'm going to use it. Okay. So there we go. There's little T card with a bird. And those are the other two we did today, and these are some that I did beforehand. Now, I want to show you, I had cut some cardstock the size of a business card, which is 3.5 inches wide by 2 inches tall. And I cut out one of the images and put it on there thinking, okay, well, that would make a little bigger. I do not like that as well. The image is larger, but I mean, you can see more of the image, but this to me actually focuses the image, where when we get here, I feel like this card needs something else. So I would, if I were going to use this in a journal, which I'm sure I will at some point, I would have to add, it's going to require a little more decoration. Now, I may come back to that size because I think the business card size is a good size for a little piece of ephemera, but I still think it needs a little more. And then I had these hibiscus plants that I just cut index cards to fit the picture as it was, because the pictures were exactly this, just a single shot of the hibiscus. And again, I like the image, but the image itself looked smaller when it was on a page with a bunch of other stuff. Having that blown up even more by removing all the other distractions and having it blown up, again, it's still a beautiful image, but I would need to do something else with this card. You may not. For me personally, I would need to. So for now, I'm going to continue going through my catalog and working on the T cards because I'm absolutely loving this. They're simple, they're flat little images, flat little ephemera pieces that can just be tucked into just about anywhere for your journal. So that's it for now, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. Please let me know in the comments what you thought of this little process. And until I see you again, please be safe, stay healthy, and happy crafting. Bye-bye.